having me. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I want to start by asking you, I know there's so much energy in the room, but we're going to bring it down a little bit, by asking you to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Take an inhale. What are you feeling? What does it feel like to be you? Maybe you're nervous because I just asked that question. Maybe you're really excited. Maybe your right butt cheek is falling asleep. Maybe you're jet lagged and you're tired. What does it feel like to be you? And what does feeling that feel like? You can open your eyes. What does it feel like? Sometimes we don't know, but we have a physicality to our feelings. Right now, I'm really grateful to be here. I'm introverted, so I'm a little nervous to be on stage. And that comes across as gratefulness is an opening, right? Opening across my chest. I feel really alive. I feel really grateful to be here. When you're tired, you feel something. What does it feel like to be you? And the next question I have, when was the last time you felt lonely? Raise your hand if you've ever felt lonely. So it's a universal human emotion. I'm going to go ahead and... What is loneliness? I feel it often. I feel it sometimes when I'm traveling, when I'm out in the world. Sometimes a beautiful city, cities that I study in urban design, cities that I study in architecture, make me feel like the loneliest person in the world. And sometimes that very same city makes me feel vibrant and alive and excited to be there. What is it about the city, or what is it about me that makes me feel alone? I started asking this question, and I talked to Jana, and I said, Jana, I'm studying loneliness. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure this out. And she said, well, you should talk about it. And so I did what I often do, which is I went alone into my room, and I studied books alone, and I read on this idea of loneliness, and I thought to myself, okay, so what is it? And some of my favorite author friends, the people that I go to in books and listen to, said, well, John Steinbeck of California said, all great and precious things are lonely. And Bernanos told me that nobody ever discovers the depths of their own loneliness. So I was both depressed and reassured, because everybody was telling me that they felt lonely, so I wasn't alone. But also, man, and Haruki Murakami, Japanese fiction writer, describes loneliness as violent stabs that take over his breath. The very air he breathed would feel like long, sharp needles. But it didn't really answer my question. What is loneliness? And why do we feel it? What good is it? What good ever came of loneliness? So I went out and I said, okay, well, let's look at this. What is loneliness? Loneliness and alone, not the same. One can be alone and be very happy. I love being alone. Sometimes I tell my husband to go away so I can be alone. Alone and lonely. Lonely is sometimes very sad. And Thoreau said, I've never found a companion that was so companionable as solitude. Okay, so people are saying alone is a good thing. But then Sartre, if you're lonely when you're alone, you're in bad company. Which means that loneliness is something about the quality of yourself and psychology. And in fact, loneliness is a psychological perception. It is the difference between what you have and what you want, specifically with regards to social contact. So you can be delightfully alone and then go onto Facebook and realize that there's a party happening and then feel left out and feel lonely. It's a quality of a feeling that tells us, oh, I wish I had more connection. I feel empty and I feel sad. I'm missing out on something. It's a state of mind, if you look at the American psychiatric definitions, of feeling alone, empty, or unwanted. Well, Sarah, why is that any good? I said the upside, right? So then I set out to look at what is it that makes us feel lonely? Like, why do we feel this? Where is it coming from? Are there certain things that can make us feel more or less lonely? You can imagine. I asked you to imagine, when did you feel lonely? Well, what is it about the world? Is it outside of ourselves or inside of ourselves? It's a quality we feel inside, but it's an experience that can be influenced by the outside. Namely, sometimes architecture makes us feel lonely. Walls, we put up walls and we put up big buildings. That looks like a lonely building. In America, we build these big walls and we build these houses and we isolate ourselves. They're called suburbs. And we decide that it's not quite far enough away to have an individual house with individual rooms, with a gymnasium and a garage. Now we've got to put those houses 100 to 200 meters apart just because I cannot be that close to you. So we build suburbs, which are quite lonely. And in order to get us from point A to point B, we get inside of vehicles. And to be safe, our engineering standards are we over-engineer the streets and we make them as wide as they can be. So they're 5 cars widths wide. Other countries have tried this and they stopped right away and they said, that doesn't work. We continue to do it. And then if that weren't enough, we then take those buildings and we put a big wall around them. We put a gate in front, called gated communities. The word community is a little bit ironic here. And like lipstick on a pig, we then say, but to let people connect, we'll put a bench in front of that building. Well, what do we do when we live inside of tiny, small, or slightly bigger McMansions and houses and homes, and we live separated from each other? Well, what we ought to do is design it so that in the center we can refill our souls with a shopping mall. That's what that is. And then, so this is actually like one of the prototypical designs that we print all over the landscape. And that's enough parking so that we can all drive there individually. So we put ourselves in boxes, and we each get our own individual room. And in American university, you don't share the dorms anymore. We each get our own independent dorm room. But then there are additional barriers, social, technological. We drive in cars alone, which makes all of these little marching boxes go down the highway with individuals inside of them. And I have yet to hear a story that says, I met my husband while driving on the freeway. And then we go to work, and we counteract some of that with open office designs. But the problem with open office designs is often that we feel uncomfortable in that space, so we don't actually talk to each other because we don't want people to overhear our conversations. So then we spend all day alone and lonely, and we put headphones in. So whether it looks like this or like this, it's basically the same thing. We've ended up in another box. Of course we feel lonely. Boxes, single people, where we get in a box to drive to an office of boxes. When we finally do get out in the world, we take another look at another box. Technology, that beautiful thing that connects us, and is actually how Jana and I connected in the first place. So I'm not going to be one-sided about this and just bash the internet and Facebook and social media because they're beautiful things, but we also have stopped looking around. The subway, even on a bicycle. Sometimes we miss the entire landscape around us because we live within a virtual world online, disconnected from our bodies and what we're actually feeling. Boxes, to driving in boxes, to staring at boxes. In addition, as I was conducting this study of what it is that makes us feel lonely, and in particular, because we're often self-interested, what it is that makes me lonely, I looked at exercise and activity, and thank you, Carl, for the brilliant talk. Wonderful. Exercise can make us feel reconnected to our own selves. And the irony here is that this is one of the most open poses in yoga, and you open up your heart and you begin to feel again, and exercise makes you feel, and feelings help you exercise, and people who don't exercise are the most unhappy. But look at that pose and then consider the physicality of what we do every day. Sitting. How much space do I have in front of me? I'll turn sideways profile. Not much. And when I look at my computer, I'm down here. In fact, I've now adopted the posture of sadness. And then when I go outside and I look at my phone and I walk, I have closed off all of my openings to the outside world. And then I put the phone down and I wonder why I feel both addicted to it and lonely. I wonder if in 20 years there's going to be a retrospective on Steve Jobs that says the 11-inch MacBook made us all lonely. Sunlight and natural light make us happier. We work in environments like this for long days. We don't go outside, or if we do, we see one plant, which is not diverse, when the beauty of diverse outdoor settings can reignite our neural pathways and make us feel alive again. Then, on top of all of that physical, problematic issues that make us feel lonely, we also start consuming. Media consumption has increased over the last 50 years to unprecedented rates. And we listen to the news and we connect on social devices, social operations. News is designed to be scary. It's the latest headline. So news makes us enact the fight or flight response, and social makes us feel left out often. And we're consuming more than ever. In fact, there are entire devices devoted to consumption. The iPad, I don't know if you've ever tried to edit a photo on an iPad, but it makes me want to hit myself. So we have consumption technology and we have creation technology, and quite frankly, I know that I'm the happiest when I create. Consumption is correlated with my own unhappiness and my own loneliness. And creation is correlated with my own happiness. In fact, in my own personal practice, one of the things that I try to do is make sure that my consumption and creation ratio is always scaled towards the creation side. And in practice, what this looks like is I try, you can tell everyone whether or not I actually do this, I try to create one good thing by 11 a.m. every morning. Get one thing moving. That's the goal. And I try, although it's very hard, not to check the email before that. Consumption or creation. So we feel empty, we feel alone, we have all of these reasons for feeling alone, so we go to consumerism, we fill up on things. We live in a world full of food that makes us feel better because we haven't listened to our own feelings. Full of information and news, full of things we can buy to fill up on this emptiness. However, the antidote to consumerism isn't going to solve our problems. And in fact, we think, okay, well, we should just stop consumerism, but that's like taking off the symptom when we haven't looked at the actual problem. And the antidote to consumerism isn't minimalism, it's art. And that means we can't just stop consuming to feel better. That's not going to fix it. We still have our feelings and we still don't know what to do with them. Instead, we need things we love. And the antidote to emptiness isn't filling up on things, it's love. You are love. You are already love. You are already enough. Further, and this one is really important to me, communication, as a writer, we don't know how to talk about the feelings that we have. When I asked you earlier to think about your feelings, what did you come up with? What word did you choose? What did you feel inside of your body? We have so many words for feelings in language. Sad, glad, Pam, mad, scared. She got the 4 big ones. There are so many words for feelings. We have spent a long time elucidating and figuring out and discovering and discerning what it is that we feel, and we have forgotten to name them. We have forgotten what it is that we feel. What are you feeling? Are you feeling disappointed? Certain? Embarrassed? Vulnerable? Gleeful? What are these feelings that we have? These beautiful, wonderful feelings that we have. Maybe you're fatigued from a long flight, or you're feeling sensitive to a particular temperature. Maybe you're feeling courageous or curious. When was the last time you named your feelings? So in my long list of all the things that are making us lonely, and by your reactions, I've got a lot of concerned faces, so also I'm now depressing you all before we go out and party. Which is okay, we'll get to the good stuff, because I promised you the upside of loneliness, and unfortunately right now we're on the downside. Touch. One of the things that helps us feel more connected is touch, right? How good does a hug feel? How great is a massage? In yoga, when we work with people, fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately we get to touch each other. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the only time someone is touched throughout their entire day. And we have to be so sensitive with who they are in their human bodies, because we don't know what reaction that will bring the first time you're touched. Touch is correlated with happiness. Want to feel better? Give a hug. Get a hug. In fact, in prison, one of the highest forms of punishment is to put people in isolation chambers. Your math scores and your language abilities go down by 30% to 50% when you have no connection to other people. And unfortunately as well, that doesn't really look very different than that. On a more esoteric level, as we move beyond the physical, out of the matter, and we look at individualism, we think about, okay, we have an individualistic culture that prizes me, how I did it, how I got started. Magazine covers glorify the individual without respect to their mothers and fathers and communities and the surrounding systems. How I did it. Person of the year. You, above all else, alone. Lonely. We forget everything is interconnected. So we live this lonely existence. And in fact, when you think about it and you look at the solar system and you consider what people have been contemplating for years, we've been contemplating the cosmos and thinking about existence and realizing that life is short and that death is uncertain and near and scary. And so, so we're alone in the universe. We prioritize the individual. We forget the community is important. We put up walls around everything. We use headphones and iPhones. We've forgotten how to get in touch with people in the non-creepy way. Touch. We consume an unprecedented amount of media. Of course, we feel lonely. It's not a surprise. But why? Why is it good? What usefulness is it to feel lonely? I don't like the way it feels. Already I'm kind of wanting some Carl Paoli handstands to make me feel better. Why is this good? Why is loneliness useful to us? I think we get lonely because we've forgotten that we are already home inside of our own bodies. You are already enough. You have everything you need, and your community is right around you. Joseph Campbell says the privilege of a lifetime is being who you already are. What does that mean? Well, feelings. Loneliness is a feeling. Feelings come inside of our body. What good are these feelings that I'm having, and why am I having them? The tricky thing about feelings is that, well, Sarah, I've had all of these unpleasant feelings. I don't want them anymore. You're not helping me. How do I fix this? What good are all these unpleasant emotions? We've waged a war against feelings because we're afraid of feeling them. We hide them behind media. We stuff them into boxes. We make ourselves feel better however we can. And yet, I think that feelings are what lead us home to who we already are. I went on a yoga retreat, and one of my teachers asked me, he said, "Sarah, have you ever been to the bottom of a feeling?" Have you ever been to the bottom of a feeling? I didn't know what that meant. I said, "No, I don't know what that means. What is the bottom of a feeling?" And he said, "Well, think about the feeling that you're having. When you get nervous, or let's say you hear something, and the hairs on your arms start to tingle. They go up. Your neck. If you had heckles, they would go up like a cat. You look around, there's a tingle. Your skin starts to send signals, neurotransmitters, electrochemical signals through your body, pulsing towards your multiple brain centers. Inside of a feeling is the ability to feel. And how lucky it is that we can feel, because that is what means we are truly alive. If we didn't feel, imagine that for a second. Imagine having no feelings at all. You wake up, you have some coffee. Oh no, I just went to the bathroom again. No signals to tell us what to do. Feelings, the upside of loneliness and all of the feelings that we have is that feelings tell us where to go. They're clues, they're navigation systems for our lives. When you feel bad, when you feel lonely, it's telling us, I need to move. I've got to do something. Something should be different. I'm feeling lonely. I want to connect. I want to be with somebody else. I want to get to know myself better. Feelings are a guidepost for our lives. So I'll tell you a little story. And if you guys know this word, desire, you might know a wonderful woman named Danielle Laporte. And one of the problems I had, she had this book called The Desire Map. And I loved it. I loved the idea of it. I picked it up, I read it, I tried to understand it, and I got stuck. And I've told her this story, so she knows. I actually hated the book for like 3 months. I tried to read it. I am such a, you may know this, a head thinker. I think a lot. I didn't know what I wanted to feel. I listed all the feelings, and they all sounded good to me, except for the ones that I didn't want. But I said, oh, I want to feel that way, and that way, and that way. And then I'd see somebody else's core desired feelings, and I thought, well, I want to feel that way too. And I'd go over here, and I'd make another list, and it wasn't helping me at all. I was like, woman, I don't know what this means. I'm still confused. And it led me to this big aha. And in fact, Pam and I worked together. And I remember calling her up on one of our coaching calls, and I said, hi, Pam. And Pam said, well, hi, Sarah. How are you doing? Fine. Here's my to-do list, and these are all the things I'm going to do. And I just started listing out all the things that I was going to do. And Pam said, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's really going on? What's this? What are you feeling? I don't know. I don't really know. I don't feel good. Pam, I'm so tired. And Pam said, and this was revelationary for me, she's like, well, you don't have to do anything. You could take a break and sleep a little bit. I don't think I can do that. She was right. She's a genius. So the revelation, back to Danielle, via Pam, was that in order to know where to go, in order to know what it is that you desire, you first have to have permission to feel. And that includes all of the yucky bits. That includes the fact that I was so tired, I slept 12 hours a day and then sometimes left work in the middle of the day to go sleep in my car. That I would drink a glass of wine and fall asleep. That I would drink a cup of coffee and I started to notice my back hurt. You know, where those adrenals and kidneys are. Oh, God. My adrenals were shot. I was exhausted. My body was trying to tell me something, and I couldn't even listen to how I was feeling to figure out where to go next. My brain thought that I needed to do something else in order to make my life successful, and if I just did that, I would be happy, and I couldn't get out of bed. In order to know what you desire, you have to know what you feel, and that includes the yucky bits. Underneath all of the crushing weight of feelings, inside of sadness, inside of loneliness, inside of anger, inside of misery, there is a gift. And the gift is telling you, you want to wonder, you want to connect, you want to reach out. You need to sleep. It's telling us a story. It's one of the most powerful communication systems we have, right inside of our own bodies, is how we feel. And yet we put ourselves in boxes and ignore it because we've written off half of the vocabulary of feelings as bad. So I came up with a feeling template for myself because, being the heady person that I am, I needed a way of understanding it. And the feeling template, how to deal with feelings. I feel blank because of blank. It's actually kind of hard. I feel, and you have to identify it. This is what I asked you in the beginning. I feel hungry because I haven't eaten in a while. I feel scared because I'm putting together this huge presentation for my company and I don't know if they're going to like it. I feel nervous because I just asked that guy on a date. And we can start to peel away the layers of what we feel and where it's coming from. Feelings are a travel companion through life. They're what remind us that we are already alive. Bravery isn't an absence of feelings. Love is certainly not the absence of feelings. And to live and to be alive is not to do it without feelings. And those yucky parts and those years of loneliness and those very bad, terrible, hard times are just trying to point us in another direction. Feelings are what will lead us home. Home is inside of you. So for me, loneliness is about missing my own home. To me, loneliness is about being stuck somewhere between connecting with other people and connecting back into myself. Loneliness is like holding your breath. We inhale and we exhale. We hold our breath. And we either need to take in the world around us or we need to let go and exhale. Loneliness drives us to connect. And I think there's two ways to connect, out there and in here. Loneliness helps us rediscover ourselves. I feel lonely because blank. Write it out, sing it out, dance it out, move it out. Join me and Carl later for handstands. That's definitely happening. Connect to your peers here. Dave said a brilliant thing on the Facebook page. Connect. You're going to be terrified. That's what I feel like. When I walk into a conference and I see all those people, I immediately look for the bathroom. I'm like, I gotta go hide in a stall. And I do that at almost every conference. So if you ever see orange shoes, they're not mine. Even though you're nervous, open your shoulders, take in a breath. How's the coffee? And say hello, because connecting to others is what makes us alive. Feelings drive us to reconnect, both to ourselves internally and externally towards other people. It's as simple as taking a breath. So I invite you to close your eyes one more time. And take an inhale into your body. Exhale, let it all out. Inhale. Exhale. As you inhale, invite in all of the gifts that we were given at this conference. Inhale. As you exhale, let a little of yourself out into the world. As you inhale, remember that you're alive. As you exhale, remember how much beauty there is in the world. Thank you so much.